So just a quick hello to everyone. My name is Christian Karasevich, CEO and founder of Social Chefs. Basically, I run a social media blog where I love putting out tutorials, whether it's a video tutorial, a written tutorial, to teach you all how to master social media. I mean, it's really kind of like putting together a recipe. For example, like if you're cooking something, you have like your ingredients, you have your bases, your stocks and so forth. And all these, ingredients, they go into this recipe and then you produce something. For example, it could be food. It could be, a winning social media marketing campaign. But, a lot of the fundamentals are the same. It's just about taking it and, shaping it to your taste per se. So just a couple of housekeeping things. Normally I have my co-host, Mr. Vincent Orlek on the show with me today, but he's not going to be here this week. He basically is at a conference for his job. So I wanted to, just let you guys, let you guys know if you're coming here to see him, he's not going to be here today. Sorry about that. But if you want to send him a tweet, by the way, you can send him a tweet at Vincent Orlek and use the hashtag social chatter. I don't put that here in the chat window for everybody, but you can send him a tweet, send him some love, tell him, hey, we know you're busy right now, but we'll see him, I think, next week. So let's see. So that's Vincent's. And then, by the way, my Twitter handle is at CKROKS. And Social Chefs is also, it's my company. But basically, if you want to send me any tweets or questions or, retweet anything great you hear on the show, put that in there. And remember, use hashtag social chatter. So with that, I'm going to kick off the show. If you're new, basically what we do is we talk about 3 to 5 social media marketing topics from the week, and then I share 3 to 5 tools that I think are useful, whether they're tools for your business or tools to help you in your social media marketing. So the first topic I want to talk about today is pretty quick one. Basically, it's regarding Twitter. And by the way, I'll see you later. Thanks so much, and catch you on the replay. So topic number one for today, and going to go in order of probably some of the smaller topics, and we're going to get into the larger, more involved ones shortly. The topic number one basically is Twitter is looking to let you run ads targeted at emoji. And that is, it's actually a very interesting topic here, because I actually really never thought, should we actually be able to run ads on Twitter targeted at the fact that somebody happened to use, for instance, the pizza emoji and so forth. And, I think on one hand, I think it can be very useful. For example, if it's the pizza emoji, you could use that, for instance, to order Domino's and so forth. That's a great way for any sort of pizza business to be able to jump into the fray, run some Twitter ads, and target people based on the fact that they use the pizza emoji. Obviously, it says, hey, you know what? They might be interested. Maybe I want to send them a coupon. Maybe I want to, maybe I want to potentially, invite them in to do some things for us or do some influencer work and so on. Kind of fascinating. It's a way Twitter is using to kind of help them explore some ways to generate some revenue for their business, because a lot of people think Twitter has stalled. So I think it's kind of cool. I can see the pizza emoji being very useful. Aside from that, I guess, I'm just looking at some of the emoji that are here. Maybe, I know we've seen a lot, for instance, of basketball ones and so forth. I think those could be really useful. But aside from that, somebody uses the smiley face, for instance. Like, what are you going to do? Send them, like, your flower company, do you send them balloons? Do you send them flowers? Somebody's sad? It's kind of interesting. By the way, who do we have here? So, who is this? Wilbur. Yeah, Wilbur, emojis add something like icons to be seen so you could easily recognize what the subject is about. Absolutely right. And I also am not that surprised, by the way, that Twitter is potentially going to venture out into using emoji in conjunction with Twitter ads. The other reason why is, by the way, there was a lot of social media news this week, and one of those things was, and this is more tech related, but Apple announced iOS 10. Sorry. Basically, what they did, this is their WWDC, Worldwide Developer Conference. I'm a big Apple fan, if you guys didn't know that. But basically, what it is, it's Apple's latest version of their software. They roll out, previews, developer previews. For example, what's coming out on the Mac, for instance, the Mac software, what's coming out on iOS, what's coming out on Watch OS. Watch OS is the software running on Apple Watch. And one of the things that they've actually done is they have a predictive feature now when you're typing out messages in their new software that's going to roll out for iOS, so iPhone, iPad. Basically, what it's going to do is if somebody, for instance, types out the word graduation, they're going to suggest potentially an emoji. So that's where, I could see, even though this sounds a little far-fetched, Twitter, for instance, letting you run Twitter ads for emoji, I think it could actually be a trend. If you've got Apple jumping on this, and Twitter obviously now, I think that could be, could have some legs, could be something we see. By the way, we're also going to, comment here, emojis, they add something personal these days since Instagram users gave a different perspective on it, like feelings are actually a mood or description. Absolutely. That's very useful. We've got Jimmy Oon here talking about maybe that will simplify the meaning for some emojis. Absolutely. I think that this could be pretty neat. I don't see myself personally using this, I guess, but if I'm a certain type of business, I would probably jump at this and start to, potentially investigate some ways that I could use emoji. Because remember, it's our methods of communicating, they've changed a lot these days. Our attention spans have gotten shorter. We're moving to video, we're moving to emoji for having like conversations. It's also though a way, like if you can do it right, you could conceivably just use emoji to have conversations. Roger Federer, by the way, I'm also a tennis fan, but Roger Federer, he does a lot as well with, emoji. He got hurt, I think, recently, and he sent out a tweet, and all it was emoji. And, and it's actually pretty fascinating. I think he's actually got a t-shirt too that has like his logo, and it's got, some emoji conversations on it. So I think even though this is a small piece of social media news for the week, I think it could be very, very useful down the road. So that's topic one for today. A couple other topics, I guess. One of those is, I'm just going to talk about this one briefly. Not really going to share with you guys a link because basically Pinterest acquired a tool called Flexi Keyboard. And this is a very popular tool. This is a tool for being able to to use like swipes on keyboards, on your mobile keyboards, and so forth. I'm not really sure why Pinterest was, this is the part that I think doesn't make sense to me. I wasn't sure why Pinterest was actually acquiring this company. They're bringing the people that were working there in-house. I'm wondering, by the way, with Pinterest acquiring Flexi, a major keyboard maker, maybe they're going to have their own Pinterest keyboard. Who knows? Maybe they're going to potentially use it for chatbots. I'm not really sure. But that's one other piece of social media news for the week. By the way, let me read through a couple of these comments here. So absolutely. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Will, for that. Glad you agree with the point so far. If there's anything we can, if you want to hop on and chat about anything that we talk about here in a couple minutes, feel free to. So let's see. So that's topic 2 for today. Let's see. Topic number 3. This is probably one of the biggest things for the week. And it's somewhat, for me, it was sort of surprising when it came about. But Microsoft has acquired LinkedIn. And it surprised me at first because I really wasn't expecting it. But I also have been following, just kind of the direction that tech has been going for the last few years, and I was talking to somebody, and I said, I was listening to a podcast back in 2008, and it was talking about how, you've got all these, this was before Apple and Google and Amazon, all these companies got as large as they are today. And it was talking about how we'll have, one company, it'll be called Google, Google's on something so it was a combination of all of these companies. And fast forward to today. So Microsoft has acquired LinkedIn. I was a little surprised that this happened because LinkedIn has also been making a lot of moves. They acquired SlideShare, for instance, a few years back. They bought lynda.com, pieces that you would think, hey, they're building something out of this, but then they turn around and sell their company. And not really sure why that happened, but when you think about it from Microsoft's perspective, it makes a lot of sense because Microsoft they also own Yammer. So Yammer's, I've been using a lot of these tools since back in 2006, 2007. So Yammer, that was a tool that was out. It was more for enterprise social. That's something that got acquired by Microsoft. Didn't quite get incorporated into their product. Then you also now have them buying LinkedIn. With LinkedIn, they get access to a ton of things. They get a huge user base. They also get, potentially, they get SlideShare, they get lynda.com. They also get LinkedIn Pulse, which is a terrific blogging platform for people that want to put their content out there but don't yet own their own blog, or they want to repurpose some of their existing content. So I'm pretty fascinated with with the fact that this acquisition went down. Now, I don't know the direction this is going to go, but I do wonder, is this something where Microsoft is going to incorporate all of this into their Office products? For example, will I be able to, be logged into Outlook, for instance, or something to that effect, and then have access to a person's LinkedIn, in this case, LinkedIn profile? Will LinkedIn go away? Not really sure, but I think it makes a lot of sense. Also, if I'm Microsoft, maybe I want to, here's another really great idea for them. When somebody, for instance, just gets a new computer, or, maybe they're upgrading their software, a lot of times we fill out a profile, and that profile is really just basic information. We don't really put a lot of time into it, but maybe Microsoft wants to maybe add in, almost like a step where people have to fill out that information, and it'll give them an online presence, for instance, such as a LinkedIn profile. Or maybe they update their current one, or maybe they'll pull in all the data from that. Who knows? But I think that could be a way for them to, one, really tap into their user base, and two, if they're doing this, it also, I think, could present them with an opportunity to jump into the social media side and have pretty strong foothold at that point if they keep LinkedIn around. The other thing, so let's look at the the flip side of this. The other thing, though, that I also see with this acquisition is that, well, while I like Microsoft products to a certain degree, I know a lot of people, there's some people that they're completely, Apple, some are completely, Microsoft. Some, sometimes there are a lot of people that have had a frustrating experience with a company or a product. And when they buy, one of their favorite companies, for example, in this case, LinkedIn, maybe they don't want to actually stick around with it because they had that poor experience. Not really sure, what direction this is going to go, but I think it presents a lot of interesting opportunities. I personally don't see, for instance, Facebook selling out, but I would see, for instance, Twitter at some point maybe getting acquired by Google, or another large tech company. Pinterest, not so sure about that one. Snapchat, not sure about Snapchat getting acquired. I think I think they still want to kind of go the path that Facebook's gone. Let's see, what else am I missing here? Let's see, Google Plus. Google owns that. So, I really am interested to see what direction this goes. But what about you? Everybody that's watching, what are your thoughts on, the fact that Microsoft acquired LinkedIn? Is it going to keep you around? What direction do you think it's going to head? By the way, I'm going to look through some of the comments here while I'm waiting for some responses. So absolutely. Well, great comment. History is repeating, right? Facebook bought Instagram for mostly the same reason, in order to reach, get more users. Absolutely. And you know what? The funny thing about the Instagram and Facebook purchase is that a lot of people, I don't even think they realize that Facebook owns Instagram. So, it's, if you go to Instagram, for instance, I don't actually think it's on the Instagram site, but if you go to Instagram, I don't see any, it doesn't say a Facebook company, for instance. So I think that is, it's very, don't think a lot of people know about it. So, yep, absolutely. Microsoft's using LinkedIn to relate it with Microsoft services. Absolutely. I think that that's what they're going to end up doing here. And it's not a bad thing. I mean, could you actually have complementary products there versus products that really, don't fit together? So, for example, if Microsoft bought, like, say they bought Snapchat, that doesn't make a lot of sense at the moment. How would Snapchat, for instance, fit into the overall, Microsoft ecosystem? So I'm gonna get some water real quick, guys. So let's see. We've talked about Microsoft buying LinkedIn. We've talked about Pinterest acquiring Flexi. What's next? Is next week going to be Twitter gets acquired? I think a lot of people are thinking it possibly might happen. Okay, so let's see. Let's see, what else we got going on? Okay. So another piece of social media news for the week. We have, I got about 4 other things, and I got a couple of tools for you. So this is actually this is actually a pretty good one. Facebook is testing, so I'm going to pop this here in the chat for everybody. But Facebook is testing payments on Facebook pages. And they've been testing, they're testing this mostly with Asia. But, I just want to kind of give you all some background on this. So basically, what Facebook's been doing is they've been testing a way for, to make the checkout process seamless on a Facebook page. Previously, here's what you would typically do. You would set up a shop on your Facebook page, which you can do now, by the way. You could set up a shop. In the past, it used to be I'd set up a landing page, but now it's, hey, I set up a shop. People would be able to click on an item and then they'd be able to buy, and it might take you off to checkout on your website and so forth. But Facebook wants to improve that. And so what they've been doing is they've been trialing a tool called Quick with some Facebook pages in Thailand. And basically what this is doing is if somebody taps a link, it's going to redirect them to a site where they enter their credit card info, providing account, basically whatever they need to make a purchase. And it's going to trigger a bank transfer. They're looking to make this, a little more seamless for businesses using Facebook pages. Personally, I don't really do that much shopping on Facebook. I guess I look at it like this. I like to do a little bit of price comparison before I go do things. So, for example, if I'm on Facebook and I happen to, see something I want to buy, I'm going to go and look up the price and so forth. I might use the save feature to save it for later. You can click on a post and it'll give you a save option. I might do that, but I typically will not immediately buy something unless it's, for instance, a product that somebody themselves have made and are selling. So, for example, if it's not a mass-produced product, like, for example, if I made like a course and I was selling it, I would be more apt to buy that right on Facebook versus, knowing that, hey, this is just something Christian made versus, well, hey, this is, for instance, this is a coffee mug that you can go, buy at thousands of stores. I want to check the price on it first, see if it's worth my time, worth my money. By the way, yeah, Wilbur, so you haven't seen it yet, but I mean, it's because they're testing it to kind of see, I guess, what, if it's going to be popular, and maybe they'll roll it out over in, Thailand and whatnot first, and then bring it here to the States. I think that's feasible because I think they want to see if that demographic adopts if they adopt it first. If they do, I think we could see it here at some point. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Jimmy. So social platforms and e-commerce are definitely huge in in Asia, and a lot more so than they are here. People, a lot of things that we do here in the States are actually not. We're pretty far behind in some cases for some things. So that's it's a feature you want to keep an eye out for. Right now I did say you can go to a Facebook page, you can set up a shop if you've got a business, set your category, for that. That will actually work. But I guess my question for everyone watching, what are your thoughts on the checkout process? Do you think that they need, just some, a little quick pay here? Um, do they need that, for instance? Or, here's the other thing. A lot of people are using, they're using their mobile device to make payments. For instance, if you're an Apple user, it's Apple Pay. If you're using something such as, like Samsung, I think it's what's called Samsung Pay. If you already own a mobile device, maybe the better thing to do would be just to tie into the mobile device and just, let people pay through that. It seems to me like, we have one system of checkout there and maybe another. I think you need to just simplify it. And I really am a big fan of simplification. So, make it as easy as possible. So, and like I said, this is something they're testing. It's not, not something that's definitely coming out, but it's possible. So does anybody have any questions on anything I've talked about so far? If not, I'm going to keep moving because I have some other, the other couple topics I want to talk about are actually really fun topics. Absolutely. By the way, another great comment here from, Wilbert. There are a lot of flaws. Yes, absolutely. There are a ton of flaws in, when you try to incorporate some of these things, some of these technologies, sometimes they don't work very well. Sometimes it's a mobile device issue. I really think that you need to just stick with what's on the mobile device. If you look at the checkout process, I guess, look at it like this. If I were to have it where somebody could go buy something, say on a Facebook page, if I'm on a desktop, so for example, or let's start with mobile. If I'm on a mobile device, let's say I'm on an Apple device, they have Apple Pay set up. So Apple is obviously encouraging people to use Apple Pay. And by the way, use it, works fantastic. But Apple Pay, so works great. Let's say I want to go make a purchase on Facebook. I could theoretically just launch the Facebook app, just tap on buy, for instance, on an item. Say that hooks into my Apple Pay on my device. I hold my thumb on there, I enter my credit card info, whatever needs to be there. I make my purchase and I check out. Like there's no need to go to a shopping cart, for instance, and then to re-enter that information. It's all typically stored on the device. So that would be, the typical way of doing something. If I move to the desktop, here's another thing. So I told you earlier, Apple had WWDC this week. One of the things that also came out is that, they might, theoretically might be moving to allow Apple Pay on the Mac. So for example, if I'm using a Mac, I could, and if I have an iOS device, for instance, I can unlock my phone. I can unlock my Mac using my phone or my watch. Why not then theoretically just tie an Apple Pay there as well? Very seamless process. Does not have to go into the, does not have to go, into a checkout process, a complicated checkout process. Let me rephrase that. Doesn't have to go into a complicated checkout process. It does not need to, have me then go to another service and give them data as well. From a consumer standpoint, I think that would actually be a lot easier. And you could replace Apple, for instance, with Samsung or whatever tool you want to use. But, if it really starts with, one device, I don't think you really need to make the shopping cart that complicated. So let me read through here a couple of things. So let's say I'd like to do update news from Apple. Of course, yeah, absolutely. It's all about new software and features. Absolutely. But I got to say, they really hit it out of the park with these updates they're making. You make a really great point. With Apple, when they introduce it, it's working, stable at least. Definitely. And here's the thing. When Apple Pay, for instance, came out, one of the biggest, one of the most crippling things, I guess, was that it wasn't available in a lot of banks or in a lot of retail locations. And some of that is educating, the retail establishment. I can tell you, for example, I went to go to, I think it was like a CVS, and I had seen that they had, for instance, an Apple Pay sign up. I went to go use it, but then they had, for instance, some contractual agreements with some other vendors, and they were not allowed to actually accept Apple Pay. So they had to basically disable it. In that case, I could see that can be frustrating for a number of customers who are all excited about trying it out. I will say this though, over the last few months, I mean, well, let's say more than a few months since they introduced it, they've really started to roll it out to, a lot of banks. So a lot of credit cards, a lot of banks, they've started to get it. A lot of people, like for instance, I think CVS now does accept it because their agreement with the other company, for instance, I guess that other company kind of folded or, said they were closing. So, they gave them an out. So that means, that more of these companies are going to start to potentially, incorporate it. The other thing, I did this the other day. I was in New York, and I was traveling, and I'll say this. I mean, it was super handy, for instance, to be able to be on my phone and to be able to, for instance, pull up Uber and to be able to pay. I was able to basically pay, request my ride, pay, and just get in the vehicle and go to my location. There was no like fumbling with the credit card, none of that stuff. It was so easy. Not to mention, I've also like go to the grocery store. I love this. Like I love being able to go to the store and being able to, for instance, have Apple Watch. I love being able to tap on my watch and just pay. I don't have to get my credit card out. I don't have to do any of that stuff. And it's so seamless. I mean, it's just, it saves you a lot of time in the long run. And we're talking like seconds. So pretty amazing. By the way, let me look through a couple of these comments here. Absolutely. Yeah. Bringing updates and stages. Yep. I'm not really, I don't know why they roll out some of the updates like they do in stages, but I think that it's, in a way it's a cautious approach, but I think it's a good approach. Yes, like Android, for instance, or other third party apps might have some of this functionality, but I think that, I think part of it is like, if you look at it, like you're a huge company with so many users using your devices, you can't just roll out, for instance, a feature and say, oh, it's going to work perfectly, because sometimes it does require re-engineering things. I'm not a programmer, but I love tech, love gadgets, and love figuring this stuff out. And, I can see this, in their case, like they're rolling stuff out that for some people are like, I already have that on my Android device. But you also have to look at, I guess, the total package. How does it fit with, somebody using that device? Like, is the implementation on Android clunky, for instance, compared to the iOS version? Not really, you have to compare that instead of just looking at them, and taking them at face value, saying, oh, well, hey, this feature's already been on here for a year. Maybe it's been on there for a year, but maybe it's worked half the time. So, all of these things, they create a user experience. And, typically, and you want to have the best user experience you possibly can. So I'm going to keep going here, by the way, unless anyone has any other questions on anything that I'm talking about here. Yeah, absolutely. Well, like they keep the quality and indeed user experience high. They have to. A lot of people, they talk about, well, hey, what? They talk about it costs more money to buy a device. And I'll say this, part of it is like, yes, it does cost more for the device, but I will say this, I've been a loyal Mac user for a number of years. I still use a PC as well. I feel that I can, here's the thing. Part of it is I feel more empowered when I'm using my Mac. I feel like I can get more things done. I feel, like overall, it's a really great, piece of equipment. Not to mention, I may not have all the bells and whistles like that, like maybe I can go buy a laptop, for instance, that has like, what is it? LTE, like an LTE connection these days. But you know what? I don't really need that. I have a phone, for instance, and I use my laptop for my main tasks, but I can do certain tasks on my mobile device better than I can, for instance, on my laptop. So, I'll say this. I mean, part of it is like it empowers me. At the same time, though, I think that it also is something that I feel like you get more in life out of it. Honestly, like I've still got a couple of computers sitting around. I mean, they're how old are they? Like 7 years old, and they still run great. And so I would say this, like for people that say, well, hey, it costs more money. Like, yeah, it does, but you're typically going to get more in life, I think, out of the equipment. And if you still, if you feel that is, if you feel that you're still getting, like it's still doing the job, there's no need to upgrade. So, absolutely. Yeah. 2006. So, and I'll say this, I even go back to the PowerPC days, and it's a big change, PowerPC and Intel. And by the way, I know this is a show about social media, but I guess we got a little sidetracked here talking about, Apple products and, tying some of these things together. But, there's a lot that you can really do with the equipment you have. And by the way, no need to apologize at all. I mean, I love talking about this stuff. I could actually talk about this stuff for hours, actually. So, okay, so let's see. So that was talking about Facebook testing payments on a Facebook page, and we obviously jumped into what the payment process is like and how we could streamline it. So let's get up to two more really important topics, and then we're gonna I got three topics for you. Three more topics. One of those is that Facebook is making some changes to Messenger. So Messenger has over 900 million users. And I don't know what topic number this is, but we'll talk about, basically just, we'll just put it in there as a topic. So another update for this week in the land of social media. Facebook is wanting to make it easier to start conversations. And so they're making some updates to Messenger. There are a couple of things you can do here. So one of those is you can now, obviously you can do more than just send and receive messages. They're basically, you can send emoji, for instance. They've actually added some emoji, I believe. You can chat with businesses, you can get your news delivered. So they're doing that. The other thing they're also doing is they're kind of moving some things around in Messenger. So for example, the way conversations are kind of laid out, there are, there's actually a little video, actually, if you go to that link that I shared with you, but I'll drop that here in the thing for you. By the way, I'm going to have you talk about that. Messenger takes a lot of data from its users. I want to hear about that in a second, but let me finish my thought here. So basically, if you go to that link, there's a lot of really new things. You've got a redesign way. You can make phone calls. You can do groups for Messenger. You can see your profile. You can just see individual people. You can search, for instance, on Messenger. They now have a favorites feature, so you can highlight people that are, that you typically have a conversation with, and you want to have their handy. That's one thing. In addition to that, so there's some other neat things. Let's see. So if it's somebody's birthday, for example, they now have a birthday section, so you can wish them happy birthday. There's also an active now feature at the bottom. So now when you go to the Facebook Messenger home icon, what you're going to actually see is people who are online. So the screenshot and the video that are there, I mean, they'll kind of, I guess, show you how those work. I say this because, if you're a business, for instance, and you are using, or you're not using Facebook Messenger, you definitely should start looking into it. Because Messengers, they get 900 million users. I mean, it's ridiculous how many people are on Messenger. But I will say this, I love using Messenger. I think it's fun. I think it's easy to use. I don't find it complicated at all. And, I like that I can quickly go in there and have a conversation with somebody. And in some cases, by the way, I actually use my mobile device more for communicating with people than I do just jumping on the desktop and messaging somebody back. So, for example, if you happen to send me a message, I'll typically answer it on the mobile device because it's a lot more, it's easier and it's more intuitive. For example, if I want to delete the conversation, I could swipe on the device to delete it. I can also quickly archive the conversation. I can mark it as unread, for instance, if I need to, if I want to go back and look at that and so forth. The only thing I could see this having or adding to it, I guess, is like a to-do list where you can maybe swipe to a to-do list. But we'll talk about something in a minute on that that I think could be really useful. So that's Messenger. Some updates are going on. So I'm looking here actually real quick. So Wilbert, you talked also about, Messenger taking a lot of data from its users. Can you elaborate on that? Do you mean that, I know what you mean, I think, but do you mean, for instance, they collect a lot of data, or are you looking at it more from the perspective of, they use a lot of data, or is it a combination of the two? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, collecting data. Absolutely. Messenger, and here's the thing. I would say Messenger, it doesn't really matter what tool you talk about. But all of these tools, they're collecting some form of data from you. Facebook uses it. They already have your profile data. So, they're probably looking into, what you're actually doing when you're having your conversations. So they're probably going to feed that, for instance, into a chatbot and so forth at some point. So that way it will, have some additional, touch points to be able, or data points basically, to be able to make informed decisions maybe. The other thing, I said this years back when, I'm going to go back to Apple here, but when Apple launched Siri, they basically had, a data farm, and what they were, I suspect this is what they're doing, but basically when somebody would, say, hey Siri, it would take whatever you said, it would send it back to a server, and then it would come back with some information. It makes a lot of, when they, for instance, I wouldn't be surprised if they were using that data to not only learn more about their customers, but also learn, for example, when Siri came out, one of the things it could not do was it was very limited on the apps that it could launch. And, I wonder, like, okay, how many, maybe they have something that was saying, well, hey, what apps should we add next to Siri? Or should we even add the ability to launch apps? And maybe they were, for instance, looking, saying, well, hey, people are asking to launch Netflix, or people are asking to launch like the settings menu or something. Maybe they're using that data, or hopefully they're using that data to build a better product. And for Facebook, from Facebook's perspective here, I hope that they're going to do the same thing as well. Taking that data, and instead of just, instead of collecting it or using it, for instance, from an advertising perspective, because that's typically what most websites will do. Most websites that, collect data will say, hey, I can go back to this company and say I get X amount of impressions and charge X amount of dollars. But I hope that Facebook, for instance, will use it to then say, okay, we've got a lot of people asking about this issue, or we've got a lot of people having trouble with this, or people are saying, hey, like they want like a certain feature. They're, they basically be able to interpret the conversation without having to go through all of the conversations that are happening. So let me see what else we got going on here in the comments. Absolutely, yeah. Here's the thing: anything you put on any of these channels, doesn't matter what it is, whether it's whether it's Facebook, whether it is a it could be Facebook, it could be like downloading an update. They're giving me something for free. Like all of that data, helps these companies, and you really have to just be aware of everything you put online is going to be visible, or sorry, not visible, but it's going to be available to a company to help them improve what they're doing to make informed decisions. I mean, Google is the same way. When I go on Google and I search for something, for instance, hopefully you all know this, but when you go to Google, you have two different search tabs that show up. You have, a search, for instance, that shows, here, let me actually look this up. Okay, so if I were to go to Google, for instance, I have two things that show up. I have a tab that shows private results, or sorry, I have one that shows like all of my results, and then I have another that shows, that hides private results. So what's great about this is I can go in and I can see what type of information shows up. That's very useful for me, as an individual. I can go in there, and I can see, okay, well, where does my content rank, for instance, versus what am I searching on? So that's one thing, so having that, everything that I search for basically goes into that. So whenever I search for something, it's there in my history. It helps them better improve the experience. It's nice because you don't have to have it where somebody is looking at the experience saying, well, hey, what can we do differently? Like, let me sift through like these pages and pages and pages of data. It's all there for you. They're kind of doing it automatically and then making tweaks. So, but I would say, if you're concerned about anything you share online, just, when you agree to something, I mean, you're saying, well, hey, I give this company, the ability to do this, this, or this, just make sure you read the agreements. Most people don't read them. And if it's something that you're concerned with, sharing, I always say this about, like, for instance, Twitter. If somebody wants to, for instance, like you always tell people, hey, use a direct message. Remember, like, just because you use a direct message doesn't mean that it won't show up online or that someone won't screenshot it and so forth. So feel free to, take some of those conversations offline, maybe turn it into a phone call, or maybe you turn it into, some other conversation but just be aware of like kind of what could happen with the data that you put out there. So, by the way, I want to welcome Kelly. Thanks for joining. I saw you join earlier, but just wanted to give you just a quick hi. We are currently talking about the Facebook Messenger redesign. Facebook's basically making Messenger easier to use with favorites and birthdays and being able to then see who's active versus your conversations. Got a link in the chat here, but it's pretty awesome. And by the way, Wilbert, yeah, absolutely. You're welcome. I'm glad I can give you tech news, even though I'm trying to talk about social media here. It's all good though. It's all related somehow. So let's see. So we talked about Facebook testing payments on pages. We talked about Messenger's new update. Next item, actually last two items. Facebook is, and this is actually a pretty cool one. So Facebook is, and this is actually really good if you're a retailer. So Facebook is working on putting maps in Facebook ads to help you as a business owner measure store visits. Sounds like a mouthful, sort of is, but it's a really good feature, really useful for any sort of business. So here's the thing. If I am a business owner and I'm running, say, Facebook ads, let's say I'm running Facebook ads, okay? So do I actually know out of the customers how many of them actually came into my store? I don't know this information, right? I don't know how many people came in. I don't, I could have like a beacon set up or something in my store to be able to track that. But most businesses, they don't, they haven't gotten that far. So basically what they're doing is they're looking to add maps to a tool. Sorry, they have a type of Facebook ad. It's called local awareness ads. And I'll actually give you guys a quick link to this because I put together a tutorial on this. So Facebook has this whole like local awareness ads thing that they came out with. And it's basically it's a way for you as a business to run ads that are targeted at customers that are, for instance, nearby. So, for example, you could run an ad that is targeting people that are in a certain location. For instance, maybe they're around the corner and so forth. The great thing about using the local awareness ads is you could previously just say get directions, but now they're basically you're still able to do that, but they're adding maps to their location-based local awareness ads. And so this will help tell you as a brand, as a business, how many people they think visited their location based on the ads. And so here's a couple of things. So a couple of points here. Advertisers, they previously tried to offer store location info by including links with their ads, but often they would land on a landing page that was designed for, say, a desktop, but not the phones that the ads were running on. Basically, what they're doing is they built a mobile-first native experience that's part of the ad format itself. So this is it's super useful. I gave you guys a link to how to create your local awareness ads, but it's great that you'll be able to it'll be globally available to store visit measurement as part of Facebook ads. So is anybody by the way, Wilbert, can you elaborate on that? You said it's likely the same, but a little bit different about usage because you're telling people in a certain way. Can you elaborate a little bit on that, please? Sure, absolutely. By the way, if anyone has any questions on anything we're talking about today, just definitely let me know. And I've got after this, I've got one more topic here that I want to talk about. It's a really cool thing. So we'll wait for Wilbert. By the way, while Wilbert's there, let me get one other thing together for you because I'm going to show you guys something. Okay, so Kelly, what do you mean by creating a Facebook store? Are you talking about like being able to, for instance, on the Facebook page, list out products? I think that's what you're referring to, right? Okay, 1 second, actually. By the way, I do want to actually show you guys something else that's really, well, actually, I'm going to show you a couple of really cool things here in a couple minutes. So as Kelly's asking me how to create a store on Facebook, I will say this. So you've got a couple of options for creating stores. One of those, I sort of talked about this earlier. One of those options is, what type of Facebook page are we talking about, I guess, first? Like you have, and if you have a link, that would be great, actually, so I can just go to that. I got some cool stuff I want to. Oh man, I can't wait to show you. This is really cool. Yeah, so while Kelly's putting that in there, I'm going to jump back to Wilbert's comment. Targeted ads do that already to use information like where you've been on given. Yeah, absolutely, they do that. They will relate that to your search page. The only thing, though, you have, that's the one thing with local awareness ads is you can hyper target basically. So, it's geared towards like saying, hey, I want to reach people within a certain radius versus let me run ads that are targeted at, let me run a normal Facebook ad and like, yeah, you get all that other data. But a lot of times you have to have the tool to then be able to interpret it and link all the other stuff together. For instance, share the fact that, somebody has this search history and they post a lot about this. You're talking about like artificial intelligence in a way. So, okay, let me go back here real quick to Kelly's comment. Okay, so Kelly has a stylist. Okay, so we got a stylist Facebook page. Okay, so looking at a couple things. So one is you have a shop now button up. That's cool. That's actually, so that's the first way that, first thing you can do is obviously direct somebody back to your website. Let me actually load that and look at it real quick. Okay, so if I click on that, it takes me to your, I think this is your website. Is that your website or is that is it kind of like a direct marketing type company? Wasn't entirely sure on that, but let me see. Yeah, so while I wait to get that answer, okay, so the other thing is, okay, what kind of page do we have here? So we've got open always, what's the category? Okay, so you're listing yourself as, let's see. Okay, so what type of page do you have here, by the way? Is this what's your category? That's the first question. Okay, so it's got your cookie. Okay. Okay, so what's the page category, by the way? Okay, so the company. Okay, so the one thing I would say is in order to add the store option, you have to be in the right page category. So let me see if I can. So okay, so you need to be, first off, you need to be in the right page category. I would say you should probably check with, let me see what options are here. You can try, okay, so here's the thing. You can try local business. There's a shopping retail option there. That's one thing you could try. See if it will actually trigger the store option, because if it does, you typically then get a shop option on the page. Let me see if I can actually. Yeah, so there's typically basically a shop option, and then when that gets triggered, it'll give you the product inventory and so forth. So, so there's a lot of options that are available there. So does that help you at all, Kelly? Basically, I recommend at the moment you need to play around with the categories, the page categories, because each page category will give you different options. Offhand, I don't know exactly which one to tell you to use because I'm testing it actually on a couple of pages, and some of them work, and some of them give me the option, and some of them don't. So you may have to test with your own account because typically you're somewhat limited there as far as like which ones are actually going to work for you. And you have to remember when you do change the categories, totally fine to do them now, but just keep in mind that when you change the categories, it does change the options that are available to you as a business owner. So you're not going to get every single option. For example, you might get the shop on some categories and not on others. And if that happens, you kind of have to roll with the punches. Okay, so got a couple of other really cool things I want to show you all before I wrap up this week's show. So I got two things here, and let me see. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here with you all because I want to show you these neat things. Okay, so one of the things that is actually this is new for Facebook pages. Let me pull it up real quick. Okay. By the way, Kelly, you're very welcome. Absolutely. So happy to help. Okay, I'm going to share my screen here with you all, and let's see, where's this? Okay, if this doesn't work, let me know. Okay, so this is the first time I want to show you all. So Facebook has this new feature. They just added it to pages. It's under the message. So if you go under settings, under messaging, you're going to get this new section. It's messaging settings. By the way, obviously, as you can see, this is really diving into the importance of using Facebook Messenger. Now, what's neat about this is that I am on a Facebook page. So I'm on my page, as you can see here. Okay. I go to settings. I go over to messaging over here. Now I have this whole section, and there's two sections right now: general settings and response settings, response assistant. You can jump to these just by clicking on these links. So these are kind of neat. So this is kind of neat. So a couple of things: you can tap the return enter key to send it. So they're trying to make it easier, for instance, for you to send messages. So that's an option you can turn on. And when you turn it on here, it will then be available on mobile. Okay. So, minor thing, not a major thing at all, right? But what's cool is that you have this new response assistant. And we've talked a lot about chatbots and so forth. By the way, Wilbert, thanks a lot for joining. I really appreciate it. Had a lot of great conversation with you. Feel free to jump into the blab. We do this every week at 5 p.m. So feel free to jump on. So new feature, response assistant. Very neat. So this is, it's a little bit of a gimmick. And I'll say that because it says, you need to respond to at least 75% of the messages within a day or less to show response time on your page. Currently set to typically takes more than a day to reply with a 77% response rate. So what this is saying is that I am responsive 77% of the time. However, it typically takes me more than a day to get back to you. So if that's the case, you probably want to hit me up on Twitter or send me a message through my blog and so forth. So first thing is, if you start to use Facebook Messenger and answer questions that come into your page, and you answer at least 75% of them within a day or less, they're going to give you a response time option on your page. This is actually kind of cool because it's going to help improve the customer experience on your page. By the way, Wilbert, thanks so much. We'll see you next week. Okay, so I said this is sort of a gimmick because they want you to use it, but at the same time, it's a very useful feature because if I have for instance, if I'm in the same industry as another competitor, and I have a response rate that's like, hey, I'm very say my response rate is like 80%, and that other person doesn't have that at all on their page, that actually, that's bonus points for me essentially, because somebody might see that and say, well, hey, I've got a question. I know that they're going to answer me versus the other person. So if you're going to use Messenger, You do want to make sure you test out this feature, turn it on your page, see if you like it or not. So actually really cool. Other thing they've also added, stay responsive when you can't get to your computer or phone. So this is kind of neat. So let customers know that you will respond soon and keep your responsiveness rating anytime you're away. So here's the thing. If you're away, you want to turn this. So if you've turned this top part on, the response time, in order to keep it, you have to respond to 75% of the messages within a day or less. So you can turn this on if you're going to be away to stay responsive when you can't get to your computer or your phone. So for example, maybe you're on a plane, for a day and so forth. So you can just simply turn that on. And what's neat there is when you do that, you can change the message here. So I can go click change. So as you can see, there's a whole another menu that popped up. And so this is kind of neat. So if somebody has a question, they'll get an automated message back. It's kind of neat. Put their first name in there. I get 250 characters. I can click on personalization. This is actually kind of neat. You can put all this stuff in here. So you can put, for instance, your website URL. So for example, it might be something like, well, hey, thanks for getting in touch with me. If you have any questions, feel free to, check out my website, for instance, if that's the case. So that's one feature. You can also use the schedule feature. The schedule feature is, by the way, so here's the thing. It's not a scheduling feature. It's a schedule, meaning I can say, okay, on, Thursdays, I'm available from such and such time to such and such time. So that way, if you message me, I could, for instance, add another time. And so the benefit here is I can create a schedule for, when I'm available and when I'm not available. So, so that's the new stay responsive when you can't get to your phone. We're going to turn that off for now. And then here's another thing. You also have instant replies. These are basically for when people message you. Okay, so when somebody messages you on your Facebook page, instant replies, it's a good way to let people know that you'll respond soon. So you can turn this on. So for example, if you were to message my Facebook page, you would get a message that says, thanks for messaging us. We'll try to respond as soon as possible. We'll get back to you soon. And this is kind of cool. So I can go in here and say, okay, thanks for messaging. Here, let's make some updates. So okay, so there we go. We've got that in there. And, for example, if I want to put my person's first name, I can put their last name. I can put my phone number and so forth. But I'm going to put, for instance, like it's too long. So I'm going to put, there we go. So that's what I basically would be sending somebody who messages me. We're going to hit save. And now if somebody messages me, they're going to basically get notified. I'll work to get back to you in 24 to 48 hours. And if they have an urgent need, they can send me a contact request or send me a tweet. And the instant replies are kind of new, but the other feature actually, this actually is brand new. It literally just happened on this show. So actually, I'm going to actually share the last 30 seconds here and say, so yeah, so absolutely, brand new feature. So I'm just going to tweet that out right now. But basically, that's another new feature. And then there's the last one, which is show a messenger greeting. create a greeting that people will see the first time they open a conversation with you on Facebook. We could say, yes, this is what that's going to look like. Somebody's going to go in here and it's going to say, when they open their conversation. So for example, in this case says, thanks for getting in touch with us on Messenger. Please send us any questions you may have. Like that would basically be the first one that shows up to somebody when they go to message me. Kind of neat. And this is actually kind of cool because it looks very much like chatbots and stuff. So I'm going to actually turn that one off for now. But all you do is basically all you do is go in there, make your edits, your message. In this case, and this is kind of cool. So like first name, for instance, pulls the person's profile, first name, last name, website, putting your website URL, your phone number, your address. So for instance, all of the data you put in your Facebook page would show up here. If you happen to, for instance, pick the address field or the phone number or the website and so forth. Okay. So what you've been using probably, Kelly, is you've been using the instant replies, which are these right here. This has been a feature for a while, the instant replies. So you basically turned them on, and then at that point, when somebody, for instance, scanned your messenger code and so forth, and sent you a message, they got an instant reply, whatever you'd written. This new feature, so the response assistant, the return key to send messages, it's minor, but that, so this item, the response times, the responsiveness when you're away, and the messenger greeting are all brand new. Literally just got added in the last, say, 30, 40 minutes. So pretty cool, actually, because I went in there and I had a pop-up, basically. So that's how the new feature works for Facebook pages. Let me just actually let me just see if I have it on my other page. Okay, so that's, and I'll show you how to get here. So you basically go to settings. Okay, we've got messaging. And then in the messaging, yep, so it's here. So a lot of people are going to have this. So pretty awesome. Okay, so one last tip for the day, and then I got 3 tools for everybody. So this is kind of neat. Okay, so I'm on my Facebook page, I'm on my Facebook group, and I want to show you guys this because this is really awesome. Facebook rolled out a new feature. This actually rolled out, I think, yesterday, maybe the day before. But you can now create discussion topics inside of groups. And this is really, really, really handy. I mean, I had, by the way, Kelly, if you want to join this group, I'll just put the link in here for you. But if you want to join the group, you're welcome to. You can, post questions there. You can, and so forth. Okay. So this is a Facebook group. So normally, let's just scroll up and show you what this looked like. Normally, it was just this, recent activity in a Facebook group, okay? So now they've rolled out these new discussion topics. And if I go too fast, let me know. But basically, the way that these work, if you have more than 4 of them here, you get the scroll bar. But the way that these work is this. By the way, let me see. Well, I'll accept Kelly here in a minute. But basically, the way these work is, for example, I had somebody post on our in our Facebook group, a member. They said, "Hey, does anybody have any tips on getting a page taken down?" So that came up. Great question. So what did I do with that? I could have left it here in the activity, and I could have had people go and search the group to find this stuff, right? But guess what? It's kind of hard to do that. It's not actually what's the word? The search is useful, but sometimes it isn't very helpful. And so the way that this works is I could say, okay, like for instance, let's do it this way. Let's say this question came in and I'm like, well, hey, it's not been answered. I could create a new topic. So all I have to do is go to the post. Let's do this. Let's say add a new topic, and let's say, unanswered. Let's say that's what the topic is, right? Okay. So now if I go over here and, and unfortunately these are in alphabetical order. So somebody has to go all the way over here to, to see that it's unanswered. But you basically, and this is where it's going to come down to like group strategy, I guess, is that I could go in here and say, okay, like what are the unanswered questions? And we could go in here and answer that question. I'm going to remove this for now. Like I could say, okay, let's put it in unanswered. And as it gets answered, we move it to like, a folder, like essentially a folder or a different topic. For instance, maybe it's, on Facebook. So we move it to the Facebook topic, and so forth. But I'm going to actually move this to the Facebook topic. And then the other thing I'm going to do is, let's see. So we'll select that. Okay. Well, apparently that's a bit of a bug. Looks like I can't move it to another topic from inside another topic. So let's do this. Let's go back to the discussion section. Let's see if it works. Okay, apparently it does work. Okay, so we have Facebook, and then we could have unanswered. So let's do this. Let's do this. We will remove it from unanswered, and we'll remove it from questions. And then, as you can see, anything that has anything that is in a category actually will show up there. So there you go. So you can see that. It's kind of neat. So I guess basically once you create your topics, they do not show, for instance, here unless an item is in the topic. So let me see if there's any questions. Okay, so a couple other really cool things. For example, I can go in here and, as you can see, I can add a topic. I could add things to multiple topics. So I could say, okay, this needs to go in Facebook, and hey, this is a question. So we could do that. And then as you can see there, we get the question section. I'm going to remove that real quick. And then what's also really awesome is I can now go to, I'd love it if these had thumbnails, but not a big deal. I can go into a post and say, okay, let's move it somewhere. Or I can also do this. And so, okay, notify me when a new topic, notify me, for instance, when there's a specific thing going on here. So let's put this in a business perspective. If I am a business, and by the way, welcome, who else do we have joining here? Helen, welcome. We're talking about the new Facebook group topics. Welcome, Vic, I think. So we're talking about Facebook group topics. I'm sharing my screen. But what's really cool about this is, for example, I'm going to use the one that I talked about here a second ago, Kelly. So let's say I made an unanswered questions topic. So basically what this is would be, let's say I did this. So let's say this needs to go in there. So this question came in. Let's say it's not answered. So we'll put it on unanswered. And then we're going to click on unanswered. And then we're going to do this. We're going to say get notifications. So here's the reason why. I could say, okay, any question that has not been answered, I want to get notified when somebody does respond to it, because then I want to move it out of this unanswered category. So I think this is a pretty slick feature. In this case, I know that, for instance, this question's been answered, so we're going to archive it. So that's what we got going on there. And I think this is actually pretty cool. As I said a minute ago, you can add anything to a topic. You can add a new topic just by clicking the drop down, creating a new topic, or adding it to, for instance, multiple ones, and so forth. And you can also get notifications. Now, aside from that, that's one feature that's new. You also have a new feature here as well called Sell Something in Facebook groups. Facebook groups previously only had this available as an option to some, when you went and selected a certain type of Facebook group. If you did that, you would get the sell. Basically, there was a sell option. Now you get it. For instance, it looks like it's going to be available for everybody. So all you have to do there is go to more and go to sell something. Inside of a Facebook group, you give it, a zip code, give it a price, up to 100 characters, tell them what you're selling, and then give a photo and post it to the group. So let's see. So that's that. And then let me check one other thing. So the other thing is, we talked about notifications for these individual topics. You can also go to notifications here and say, show me, send me notifications for all posts, just post from friends, highlights, for example, friends post and suggested post, and turn notifications off. That's globally for the Facebook group. So you essentially have two types of discussions here. So I'm gonna actually copy this link real quick. Okay, just want to make sure. Okay, yeah. So that's basically how the discussions work. And I'm gonna actually do one more test. I want to see if this will expand down. So let's see. We have Facebook. Let's say we have Instagram. Let's say we have Twitter. Let's do this. Let's add another thing as well. Let's say Snapchat. But as you can see here, I'm able to, obviously as the more you add here, um, the more people have to scroll. So you do want to keep that in mind with your, with how you're designing your Facebook group topics. I'll probably write something up on this to kind of give you guys a better idea of like some ways you could use this. But that's Facebook group topics, and I'm excited. I'm excited about group topics. I think these are going to be very, very, very useful for a business owner. You just really have to, you really have to think about how you're going to use them. But I think that they're going to be really, really, really helpful once you get that organization done. Okay, so that's let's see. So that's let's see. I think that's all the topics for today. Actually, let me check. Yeah, absolutely. So that's all the topics we got today. But I do want to just quickly go over a couple of tools with you all because there's some really good stuff going on. Okay, so let's see. Let's talk about some tools. Okay, tool number one. This is actually a tool called Sorted. And it's a desktop app, an iOS app, and an Android app. I'm going to share some links with you all. 3 links. One is the desktop version, one's the iOS version, and one is the Android version. And if you can't see that, let me know, and let me do it this way. So this will be the desktop one. iOS version, let's see. There's a desktop one, there's an iOS one, and there's an Android one. Sorry, I'm having trouble copying and pasting today. Okay, so what exactly is this tool? Okay, so how many of you, show of hands, how many of you use your email inbox as a to-do list? So somebody sends you something and you're like, well, hey, let me put in my, let me send myself an email, for instance, and I'll remember to go check it. How many people do that? Okay, so I'm going to say I used to do that, but I used to do it because I didn't have a to-do list application. I used to, for instance, what I used to do is I used to put in Evernote, and I'm like, well, hey, Evernote's useful, but then now I've evolved into where I use specific apps for being able to take some of those to-do list items. So, for example, if somebody sends me an email and I'm like, hey, that's a task, I have a thing where I can forward it to my email address for my to-do list app, and it will add it to my specific list I have set up. What Sorted does, is basically, it's a free app for iOS and for Android and for the desktop. So, for example, if you go to the desktop one, it's basically a browser option. So you basically get it in your browser. The great thing is it lets you take items that are in your to-do list, that are in your email, and turn them into a to-do list. So, for example, instead of getting those emails and just kind of letting them collect in my inbox, it basically turns my email into a to-do list. So I could basically set up like different boards and say, okay, are these items that I need to work on, or these items need to follow up on, or these items that are completed, and so forth. But basically, you can take your email, you move it. This is the cool thing. You have the desktop version. You basically then have the mobile app, and then you can add stuff from the desktop directly into the app, and it adds it as a to-do list. So you can, and you're the one that determines what gets put where. So like it goes from your inbox and then onto a specific list, whether it's to do or whether it's to follow up on, and so forth. It's mobile as well, very portable. So you can quickly add stuff that comes to mind, put in notes and put in due dates and reminders and anything else you want to. And as I mentioned, it is a free app. So I would recommend, I'd recommend checking it out. I mean, it's free, play around with it, see if you like it. The second tool that I have, so that's tool 1 for today. The second tool is a tool called Insta Email. And, I bring this up because not everybody uses a contact form on their blog or their website. Okay. So what exactly is Insta Email? Insta Email is a button that you can add to your blog that lets people email the link directly from your page. So for instance, if I were to go to that address that I have there, basically you can create a button that says email, you put in your code, and then the way that it works is somebody can click on it and it will pop up a message box and let them send you a message. So a to and a from field and a message. So for those of you who have not invested into a contact form on your site, I personally use a contact form, but I would recommend checking that out. And as I said, I think it's a free tool. Actually open it up. Yeah. Yep. It's a free tool. It's a script. Like I said, personally, I like using a contact form, a dedicated contact form on my site, but this is it's a free tool for anybody that wants to add this to their site that doesn't necessarily want to spend money on a contact form, because contact forms honestly can be a mess to work with. I see that Jonathan joined, 24/7 WordPress support. Yep. Contact forms, depending on your site, can be frustrating to use and to navigate. Sometimes they can be frustrating to get them to match your site and so forth. So let's see, that's tool 2 for the day. Let's see. Okay. Oh, and last but not least, tool 3. Okay, so before I share tool 3, I want to share one other link with everybody. Last week on Social Chatter, we talked about Facebook 360 photos. Okay, and so this just rolled out last week, but I'm going to share one link with you first. Basically, you want to learn how to use Facebook 360 photos. I have a complete guide on doing that from a desktop, on mobile, all of the apps, all the tools that you will need, everything you need basically. Okay. So what is really neat about 360 photos is you don't really need a device. Like you don't need any special camera basically. You can use your smartphone, the panoramic app, for instance, or sorry, not panoramic app, but you can use the default camera app on your mobile device, take a panoramic, and then upload it to your Facebook account. And all that stuff, by the way, is in that article. There's even a video to learn how to do it in a couple minutes. So in conjunction with that, this is the third tool that I want to share today. It is Google Street View. And I bring this up because you can use the default camera app on your Facebook page. Okay. However, you can also use Google Street View on your mobile device as well to take panoramic photos. And it's actually pretty slick. This way, you're not confined to just using your mobile device. If you take a 360 Street View photo, that also typically are going to probably get higher quality out of that, most likely. And then on top of that, it ties into another app. So you're not just, using you're able to get basically a better view of things. So that's Google Street View, and Google Street View is actually a free app. If you go there and download it, it's very useful. You can also see what's going on in the world, which is really nice. You can explore different places. You can see other people's photos, and so forth they're sharing. So you basically are doing, double duty. You take a photo and you use it on Street View, but then you can also go to your Facebook account and share a photo there as well. So that's let me actually find that real quick. Yeah. So that's Google Street View. I think overall, it's a good tool to have in your back pocket to experiment with if you're going to use 360 photos or video. Also want to say, I put together an article on this. I don't know when it's going to get published, but basically it's going to be on some use cases of Facebook 360 photos for business. I see, I mentioned a few of them in the article, but personally, I think 360 photos, they're another way for you as a business owner to create an experience for your customers, for your fans, to really kind of, either to tag along with you or to learn more about what your business, is, what you do. For example, if, I mentioned this in the article, but if I'm in real estate, I absolutely need to be using Facebook 360 photos. It's a great way, it's a great way, for instance, for me to give, a good view of maybe a piece of property that I'm trying to sell. Maybe I want to, show somebody some of the rooms that are there. It used to be well, hey, somebody's going to come in, I get a professional in here. Well, now I can do all that with my mobile device. So it's very, very, very useful and helpful for that. At the same time, the the 360 photo, like it creates the experience. So for somebody that's not there, it's then up to you, essentially the photographer and real estate agent, to take a compelling, 360-degree immersive experience. And, honestly, like when you first do these, they might not be very good, but they are going to take a little bit of practice and a little bit of work, and you can get them to look great. I'll say this, if you go to that article, I took a shot inside the inside of I think it was Penn Station, I think, last weekend, and it was it was fun trying to, like, one, figure out, well, hey, how do I do this? Two, how does it look? Did I actually make it a 360 photo? Because there are a little couple of catches to it if you don't complete the panoramic photo, and so forth. So I would recommend experimenting with 360 photos to see what you can create. By the way, Kelly, I know I think you sell like I think you sell what, lingerie, I guess, is that what you sell? If you've got a store that you can go to and take a 360 photo there, that I think could be really useful. You kind of have to look into different facets of your business, whether it's in your case, maybe you don't have a store, maybe you could share a photo of your office, for instance, to upsell. Like, for instance, if your goal is to get people to join your business, then maybe you want to share what your office looks like. And maybe your office, for instance, is different every day. Maybe, for instance, you're at the coffee shop, or maybe you're at the beach one day. That could be a really good way for you to entice people. One, not just because of your personality, but two, because not because of your personality or because of the product, but to entice them because of, like, they want that lifestyle, they want that experience. They want to be able to have that flexibility to be able to say, hey, you know what, I'm working from the beach today. As you guys can see right now, I'm working in my office. There's a lot of stuff behind me, but I'm in my office today. So I would say that you craft that experience, and I think the more that you make it exciting, the more that people they're attracted to you and they want to come back, and hey, they want to do business with you, or they want to become a partner with you. Or I guess I don't know if it's a franchise or if it's a licensing thing, how you guys work, but so I would recommend experimenting with that and just give somebody the experience that you want them to to have, to keep them coming back and interested. So with that, does anybody have any questions? Because otherwise, I'm going to wrap up this week's show. It's kind of crazy. I went a lot longer than I normally do when I have Vincent here. So any questions before I things up? I'm going to put a couple of links here in the chat. One of those is I'm going to put next week's show link in here. So if you want to subscribe, basically what you're going to do is you'll get, if you go to that link, you can subscribe to the show so that you'll know, basically I'll know that you are going to be attending. The other thing you can also do is actually get you all a link. So I have an email newsletter that I send out. Let me find it real quick. Okay, so I've got an email newsletter that that I send out every single day, and I want to show you all. Let me get the link. I guess I should have this link handy. Okay, I send out an email every single day. This is a separate thing, but if you want to, Jonathan, I'll get to that in a second. Actually, absolutely. So want to quickly say, that's the link to subscribe to next week's show. If you would like a daily email from me, basically what I do is every single day I send out to my private list, very quick email. All it is 3, maybe 5 items. And then I give you typically a tool, a free course, something free, basically send that out every single day. It's a quick email, nothing fancy, but basically you can go here. It's a subscribe form. You can opt in. And when you opt in, I'll send that email out to you every single day. It's a little different than what I normally send out, but fill that out and I will, that'll get you on my list for just that daily email. And then the last thing I just want to say real quick is, if you do want to get on my blab emails, or sorry, I don't call them blab emails. I call them my social chatter emails. So if you want to get on my social chatter email list, and this is basically, this is my show that I do with Vincent Orlek on, Thursdays at 5 p.m. You can text social chatter to 33444. It's going to you're going to basically get on my list to be notified about future episodes of Lab. Okay, so I want to just put that in there real quick for you. Okay, so let's talk Facebook Live video for a couple minutes here. Jonathan and Kelly. Okay, good. You're both still on. Awesome. So Jonathan, what are your questions, I guess? And I'm going to pop a couple of links here into the chat window for you because I have a ton of articles on Facebook Live video. So just fire away with a couple of questions as I'm collecting some of these links. Okay, business leads. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of things. I'm gonna drop a couple links in there for you. So the first, and these might be new to you. They might be they might be new. They might not be. Okay, so I don't know if you know, but you can use live video for pages. I give you a couple articles here. You can use it for groups. Sorry, you can use it for events. Okay. I'm going to drop that in here as well. And then let's do a live video for, I'm putting these in there because, I don't know if everybody's tried out some of these features, but basically they're articles to show you how to go about using these tools. And then the last thing I actually want to share with everybody is when you're creating Facebook Live videos, yes, I can use my mobile device, but if I want to create a better Facebook Live video, better video and better audio, I would recommend actually checking out these live video tools. And what's cool is that these tools are not just tools that work for Facebook Live video. They can also be used, for instance, for Periscope. If you're using that, you can use it for YouTube videos. Any kind of video that you are creating with your mobile device, you can use it with any of these tools. Okay, so how do you use Facebook Live video to get business leads? So one way that you could use this is you could use Facebook, well, let's ask this question. What are you doing first with your live video? What are you, what's your live video about essentially? Are you just going live and, what are you telling your audience? Or are you doing any of that yet? And if you want to, by the way, jump on this, if you want to jump into one of these open seats, you're welcome to, and we can, chat face to face, I guess. So I'll do either one, but. Okay, so we're going to have Jonathan jumping in here in a second. We're going to talk about Facebook Live video.
Hi there.
Hey, what's going on, Jonathan?
Great resources. I really appreciate the links.
Oh, you're no problem. I mean, I'm glad I can share those. I love live video. I mean, I was using this back in, I think, March, April when it first came out, and I see so much potential. So what are you doing with live video right now, or are you doing anything at all?
Well, I do a quite popular podcast,
Okay.
and we video it as well. And I put that on the YouTube channel. And we're almost up to 100 videos.
Okay.
But I've only got about a couple of hundred subscribers, but I'm not really done much with that. But a lot of people are talking about, using video to kind of regenerate your kind of Facebook page, because it's a lot of people stopped really doing too much with it with the lack of engagement people were getting. So people are really looking at their pages again, aren't they?
Okay. Okay. Well, let's see. So one thing you could do with the live video, and this is a strategy that I use myself. So for example, I'll give you a little background. I do a show called Social Chatter, as you know, every single Thursday, right? So what I typically will do is the day of, I will go on a couple hours beforehand, obviously time permitting, but I go on to a live video, and then I actually tell people what the topics are that I'm going to cover. Okay. So for instance, I'll give, it might be a 20, 30 second video. Just hearing a little feedback. I might do a 20 to 30-second live video. Say, hey guys, just a quick heads up. I'm doing a social chatter episode today at 5 p.m. Here are the topics that we're going to discuss: X, Y, and Z. And then what I do is I have a short URL that I have, and I tell people, hey, if you want to join this, show, go to, for instance, in this case, socialchefs.com/lab-40 will take you to today's episode. That might be one way that you can do that, to use it, because you're communicating it verbally, but then you could also put a link in the comments. That I think could be one way to get more people on your live videos, or to tune into your live videos. Okay. The other thing is from a business perspective. So, okay, what do you sell exactly?
Well, it's we help maintain WordPress websites, and we offer exclusive packages where we do changes to your website. So instead of having always to seek freelancers, you pay a monthly fee, and we have a starter package, but the medium package are unlimited small changes.
Okay. Okay. So, I mean, one way you could use live video in that sense would be, part of me wants to actually say you need to maybe consider using a Facebook group for maybe some of your customer service things that you have going on. You still there? Let's see if you're still there. Kelly, can you hear me still? Are you still there? Or okay, I wonder if he got frozen out. Huh. Jonathan, I'm going to keep talking, and if you rejoin, maybe you want to refresh the page. We'll talk about that, a little bit more. But what I was trying to tell Jonathan here was maybe he wants to consider moving to a Facebook group for live video, because you can broadcast to a Facebook group as well. So from a business perspective, maybe what he could do, Kelly, if you have any ideas too, I'd love to hear them. What you could do, maybe, Jonathan, is you could have people. Okay, yeah. So it looks like you got kicked out for a second. I'll probably be back in. But basically, what I was saying, Kelly, was that maybe what he could do is he could start a Facebook group for just the customer service side. Have it as a place, for instance, for people to go in and have conversations around certain topics, and he could use the live video as an opportunity to supplement some of the questions that he might get frequently, about WordPress, for instance, if he runs a WordPress business. So as far as generating leads, I mean, I think that he would have to. I think he could also, a couple other things. Maybe he could create I'm going to leverage some of his existing customers. So, for example, if he's got a Facebook page and he has a bunch of fans that he knows are very, very, very dedicated, and they like the work that he does, maybe one thing he could do is, but it looks like he's going to join. Actually, let's let him join first, and then we'll. I was going to say what he could do, basically, Kelly, was he could have people take some of those people from the Facebook page, create like a think tank on the group, and then use that as an opportunity to, to drive some of those people over to his business. So we'll talk more on that here in a second. And if you have ideas, let me know.
Oh, sorry, I got bounced out.
Oh, no worries. Okay, so what I was saying was, I was talking about Facebook groups. One thing you could possibly do is maybe you want to consider creating a Facebook group around your customer service side. At that point, you can pull some of those people into the group and use the live video as a means of supplementing the customer support, and have some sort of hook within your live video, whether it's at the end, for instance, saying, well, hey, if you'd like to, encouraging them, for instance, to sign up for your newsletter, and so forth, or encouraging, however they, I guess, potentially can get connected with your business. The benefit to getting them on your list would be you can move them down the funnel, eventually getting them to become they're essentially like a prospect, becoming potentially a lead and then potentially customers. So you basically get them on the list. You then hit them with some content. You hit them with valuable content, and then you eventually get them a customer. That might be one way. Talking to Kelly a minute ago, talking about maybe creating like a think tank group to where you take some of your Facebook fans, some of the people that are just really they're excited about anything that you do. Okay, so take your cheerleaders, do a Facebook group, and encourage those people, like use live video to communicate with just those fans, and to help them help you do some of the heavy lifting. Kelly mentioned asking for referrals or rewards for referrals. That's another thing you do. Maybe there's another thing. Maybe you could do some sort of reward. So like maybe you could go on live video using Facebook Live Video, post it to your Facebook page, and then in order to get people to tune in, you could encourage them to say, "Hey, I'm going to randomly pick like a winner of somebody who joined the show, and ask like does X, Y, and Z or whatever, and give them that one person some reward." So it encourages them to tune in. Two, they potentially get a reward. And as far as like generating business leads, I think it also is going to come down to how you produce your live videos, because just because they're live videos, they're also saved. So the more they're the better they are, the more that people could potentially then share them out with their audience. So for instance, to go beyond your Facebook page into your profile, into your feed, and so forth. Maybe for instance, you can use it as an opportunity. I know WordPress is a little tricky, I guess, because sometimes it gets into coding and whatever, but maybe if there's certain questions that come up all the time, you could turn that into a live video topic, and then that's something that you have in your back pocket that you're using. And the more that people see that you're helpful and providing value and solutions, the more that they will be apt to share that, which can lead to more, I think. So,
I think you provided some really good insights. The good news is I've been doing the podcast for 2 years, and I get about 1,000 downloads episode. And we do a blab every Saturday, which sometimes I also turn into a podcast, but not always because of the quality. But we've been doing that for about 8 weeks, and I do it at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time to 12 o'clock, and we have a panel WordPress experts from the WordPress community that join us.
Nice.
And that's slowly building up. So really, I should use Facebook to promote that, really, shouldn't I?
You could. The other thing you could also do is, you have those panels that panel of experts. Like maybe you want to, the more you start to use live video, maybe you want to reach out and have some of those, like almost have like a group chat, for instance, with just those people that you can message and say, "Hey guys, I just recorded this live video and I'd love if you could help share it out." That way you encourage them to help do some of the heavy lifting as well. You don't feel like you're doing it yourself or completely yourself. I mean, because, you can go all different ways, but I definitely would say leverage the connections you have.
Yeah, right. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. If you need any help with your WordPress site, just shout out. I help you out. Appreciate the advice.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And by the way, if you want to, I don't think we're connected on here. If you want to actually send me here, I'm going to actually send you.
I'll give you my email address here. If you want to email me, if you got any problems with your WordPress, just shout out, and I'm here to help you out. Right?
Absolutely.
Oops! Oh, I just posted a load of crap here. Let's get what happened there.
Yeah, I mean, as far as here's the thing. As far as generating leads, I mean, it also comes down to like what you're, what you sell exactly. Like if you're selling like a service, the best way I think for you to get the word out about your service, is if you put out like a quality Facebook Live video, you should have a couple of touch points. For example, the example I gave you, I suggested driving people from back to like my show. If in your case, you could have some sort of like short, easy to remember short URL that drives somebody back to check out your product, check out your service. I don't know if you want to even offer like I'm gonna say like a discount, but consider offering some sort of like, as Kelly mentioned, like a reward, but like I'd say like more like a discount. To the fact that like, hey, if I tune into your show, your live video show, I know you don't have to do it all the time, but it could be a way to say, hey, you know what, this is the first show I'm doing, for instance, on live video. The first 10 people that, sign up, the first 10 people, for instance, can go to my website and put in this code and get like a percentage off of like some service or something. That could be a quick way to generate some small wins. So I think that could help you out. By the way, Kelly, do you have any other suggestions for him? About? I'm actually checking out the website. Let's see if she's got anything. Yeah, I mean, because you sell a service. There's a lot that part of it is either A, you have to use live video in a manner that's going to generate excitement. So like whether it's answering a question, and then having like some sort of thing at the end, like, hey, are you frustrated with this? Here's how to fix this issue. And then say, hey, if you have other issues, go here. Like that's one thing you could do. You could tie in the discount thing.
Yeah, because like I say, on the podcast, on the blabbing, on Twitter, I'm quite active on Twitter.
Yeah.
But I just really I've got quite a few on my personal profile, but I just haven't really done much with the WP Tonic Facebook page. And using video, I think it could be a way of kind of re-engaging, energizing it, especially with the things you've remarked about.
Yeah, I think it could. I think the trick is you got to figure out. Here's the thing. I think you're going to have to do a little bit of experimentation on it to see what works and what doesn't really work that well. Because you have a lot of like right now, it's kind of unknown as to like, well, is this one going to work? Is that one going to work better? I think you're going to need to do a little testing on it to see which one tends to resonate the best. You could also possibly check out some other WordPress resources that are out there. If there's anything that they, if they're like using live video to kind of see how they're doing it and maybe borrow some of their ideas. Because I think that if you're just looking to like get leads without kind of providing value, I think that it's going to be hard. That's typically not what you typically want to try to avoid doing that kind of stuff.
No.
It's not very. It's not not organic. So.
No.
So yeah.
I get that.
So.
I've got to be. I'll be off now, but like I say, thanks for the advice. I'll go and read your articles.
Awesome.
And I'll sign up for the news list because you've been really helpful. Sorry, what's your first name? Sorry.
It's Christian.
Christian.
Yeah.
It's Jonathan, obviously, Christian. And like I say, if you need any help with WordPress, just give us an email and we'll help you out, right? Give you a freebie. All right?
Awesome. Thank you so much. And, if we can work together and, figure out some other things to do, let me know. So.
Yeah, just I'm looking to get some more guests that are not WordPressy on the podcast. So if you email me, I'm looking at for some guests in July.
Sure.
Just send me an email and I'll send you to my guest form.
Okay.
And so I'm looking to get the social media and that. Run out of WordPress people to interview. I've almost interviewed everybody in the WordPress community.
Really? There's got to be some more people, a few more people, right?
Yeah. Well, you guys have website. I'm on my 100th podcast. I literally have interviewed almost all the top people in WordPress. So, see you later.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jonathan. I'll be in touch. Bye. By the way, so I'm going to wrap up this week's show. I guess it's a long show, but I got to say it's been a really good one. We had a lot of great guests, a lot of great questions come on. I will do my best to get a blog post out on this. Sometimes it happens, so if not, there definitely will be a video of this podcast. There will definitely be a video available so you can watch the replay and so forth. But I want to thank everyone, and it's been great. So, Kelly, any last thoughts, Kelly? Okay. Oh, sorry about that. Huh. I'm not sure if I don't know if there was interference with audio or whatever else, but I want to say thanks a lot to everybody. Have a fantastic weekend, and we will see you next week for Social Chatter. And put the link in there for the next week's show, but you can go to, I think it's socialchefs.com/blab-41, I think. Let's see. If you go to socialchefs.com/blab-41, this is the show link. So I'll see y'all later. Thanks. Bye.